questions, or you understood what Bhante was saying? Good afternoon. How is your practice going? Any questions? Any difficulties? No? Anyone is bothered by the stray thoughts? Finding it difficult to deal with the stray thoughts? Finding it difficult to stay with what you have to do the contemplation? Huh? Yes? Okay, so now I thought of actually explaining to you a little bit about that Dvedha Vittaka Sutta. The technique that will help you to deal with these stray thoughts. When you're trying to contemplate on wholesome thoughts, but these unwholesome thoughts that's related to your lust, passion or greed, or to hatred, or to associate with delusion, or that leads you on to confusion. This kind of thoughts can arise, and I'm sure you're experiencing that difficulty. No matter how hard you try to keep your mind on the wholesome thoughts, to keep thinking positively, still you get bombarded by your old habitual thoughts, unwholesome thoughts. So, with the thought, this Dvedha Vittaka Sutta for the monks who are engaged in the higher training, Buddha says, while you are engaged in this higher training, if these unwholesome thoughts come, that's related to any thoughts with hate, lust or confusion, then this is the way to deal with it. Actually, it's not the Dvedha Vittaka Sutta, because I spoke about it before. It's what I'm going to talk to you now is Vittaka Santana Sutta. I had the wrong page turned, so it's page number 57. So this is the technique, the strategies that you should use at appropriate times when you are bombarded with these negative thoughts or unwholesome thoughts. So the first technique that Buddha taught is that if you are getting pestering with these thoughts related to passion or lust, or to do with hate, or to do with delusion, then Buddha says we must think and hold an image of contrary to that. Something opposite to that thought should be pondered, and an image should be kept in your mind. So, for example, now say someone who has done something wrong to you, or who has said something wrong to you. Who has said something, wrong things about you, or who have actually given you a hard time, come to your mind. And then what you can do is replace that image and that thought with someone who have done something so good to you, or who has spoken good things about you to the others, or who have actually helped you. So you can change your focus You can think about someone else or something else. But if you have developed your mind to a certain extent and you have metta coming from within, then it's possible for you to think a good quality of the same person that's in your bringing you a negative thought. You can think a positive quality of the same person, but you should not try that if you are a beginner, because there is a chance again your mind might slip back to that unwholesome thought. You are trying to think about a good quality of that person, but very soon, without even you knowing, it will slip back to he said this, he said that, she said this, she said that, like that. It will slip back to the unwholesome. So, if you don't have enough understanding or metta that's coming within from you, then you must not try to flip the image using the same person. But if you think you can handle it, then the best thing is you take the same person, but you think about a good quality or something that he had done to you to make your life a happy one or a better one. A time that he gave you a hand when it's needed. What you have heard that he or she has said good things about you. Or a gift that he or she has given to you that made you very happy. Because in our mind there is this tendency, no matter how many or how much good that someone do to us, if they do a slightest thing with the negative side, we hold on to that one and we forget all the 100 good things that they have done to us. It's the nature of the mind. So, this is happening naturally to us. So, if you can, try to find out about that one good thing, or the at least one good thing, or the 100 good things that he or she has done to you. And then very easily you will find your heart or that emotion that's disturbing you will start to change. Something into a gratitude, or bringing some lightness into your heart. And then very easily you will be able to even forgive whatever he or she has done to you that you're holding on to, that grudge. That way, I find very easily that memory will go away. Now what happens if we try to bring an opposite image, maybe using another person? It's okay, in that moment you have managed to get rid of that unwholesome thought, yes, but there is a chance that the previous unwholesome thought can give rise again, because we actually didn't sort out the problem with that same person. We haven't forgiven, we haven't dealt with that exact situation, so this image or that thought can come again. So if you can try these methods, and then you will see that if you can use the same person and think good qualities of that person, if this situation is to do with hatred or with some grudge, then it will be good if you can ponder good things or the positive qualities of this person. Sometimes, even if you can't think about a good quality of that same person, in a way that he or she hasn't done anything good to you, but maybe if you look into their life, you might find that they have done some good things to the others, even though they haven't done anything good to you, but they may have done some good things to his or her family, at their workplace, in their village, to the other people in the society, like that. maybe you might be able to find something good about them when you look at them in a broad way. So even if they have done, a little bad thing to you, but if they still have a lot of goodness in them and you can see it, you must think of that. And that will again help you to dissolve your grudge, your anger, your ill will towards this particular person. Like I said, when you try to do this one, you should be a bit careful. You should not let your mind slip into the unwholesome thought again. You must watch. Otherwise, the safest method is you replace a thought and an image that brings the opposite of that idea or opposite of that situation, and that's going to settle your mind. Now, Bhante Punnaji sometimes teaches what you can do. Straight away you can imagine a Buddha image and think of the good qualities of the Buddha, because Buddha hasn't done anything wrong to anyone, so we can't find fault with him. When we look at the Buddha statue, when we think of the good qualities of the Buddha, naturally it will settle us, will help to calm us. Because nowadays sometimes I find it difficult even to tell people, okay, think about your parents, because today a lot of people have a lot of grudges even towards their parents. So if you think about someone who will trigger something, then it's not going to help you all. It's going to deceive this purpose. So it's best you straight away go to the Buddha, his image, and think of the good qualities of the Buddha. And then when you realize that that unwholesome thought has subsided, then you can go back to the meditation that you were doing, whatever you were contemplating or watching. You can go back, or you can return to your own thing, what you have been doing before. So Buddha brings an example. It's like, the carpenters, when they work, they use something called kunya, like to keep things separate, they put something in between, like a peg. And to remove the old peg, that unwanted peg, they keep a new one and then hit that one, and then it goes in and the old one comes out. So Buddha says, like that, you replace this unwholesome thought with a wholesome thought. It's like if you're watching the TV and a scene comes that you don't like to watch. So what you can do, you just take the remote and flip the channel. So it changes. This is what you have to do in your mind. Flip the channel, and that will solve the problem. I hope you have kind of experienced that. Some people don't like to watch when there's a crime or something, people are fighting or killing is going on. They try to, because they see it's disturbing them. They're getting scared, they're getting angry. So I think it's normal for those people to either switch off the TV or to flip the channel. And if you have done that, I'm sure you have experienced that straight away it makes a difference the way you were feeling. No longer that emotion that was going to build up will build up. No longer that emotion will be there, it will go away straight away when you change or flip the channel. You can try these things. If you haven't tried them, you can try these things. I know a lot of you are experienced meditators, but there are some new people, so for their benefit I'm teaching this in length. Otherwise I won't go into this length, because I know most of you know a lot and you have heard this over and over, but There's nothing wrong with hearing this, because I'm pretty sure you also can learn something new, maybe at least one thing, and you can be compassionate towards the newcomers, because I'm sure they are battling with a lot of these unwholesome thoughts, and they do need to know these techniques. So this is why I'm taking time and going into length. And then after you try this method, and if still this unwholesome thought comes in again, and then Buddha says, try to contemplate on the consequences of this thought. In Pali it's called adinava. So you are to reflect on what this thought will do to you. When you reflect like that, you can see that these thoughts are unworthy, and they are not actually correct thoughts. They are taking you into a different tangent. It's not going to help you to go to the destination that you're trying to go, and it's not going to help you all to purify your mind, and it will lead you all to suffer. So try to see these consequences. Now you are engaged in purifying your mind, and you know what the negative thoughts do to you. In Dvedha Vittaka Sutta, I hope you read that sutta. That's on page number 53, and I think I just covered a bit from that sutta. And if you read that sutta, Buddha actually talks in length what these unwholesome thoughts do to you. Remember I told you, Buddha reflects that these unwholesome thoughts will bring harm to me, will bring harm to the other, will bring harm to both. It will destroy the happiness that you have already built, the peace that you already have built, the wisdom that you already have developed, and it will only move you away from Nibbana. It will only move you away from developing the wisdom. Like that, Buddha teaches you how to reflect on the dangers of this thought. So here you have to reflect on the dangers of harboring this negative, unwholesome thought. And when you do that, naturally it will go away, it will subside in you. Now, for instance, suppose that there is a snake sitting here. Now, if someone knows what it is, do I have to tell you, or does someone else have to come and tell you all to get it out or to remove it from there? No. If you know the danger of that animal, the potential of that one, you will not go near there, you will not play, you will not try to entertain that, but what you will do is you will try to get rid of it, because you know the danger it can do. So like that, if you can see the danger in these thoughts, no one actually have to come and tell you to remove them. Naturally, you will work towards removing them. Removing means all you have to do is not to engage with them. Don't entertain them. Don't make stories with them. Just, you see the danger, the same way these thoughts came, it will go away, it will subside, and you will be back to your state of the mind, whatever the state of mind that you were experiencing, a peaceful one, tranquil one, you will be going back to that state of mind. Buddha brings the example here, the analogy that as if someone has put a snake carcass or a carcass of a dog around in your neck. When someone is very clean, they had a bath, and they are wearing their best clothes, garments, the pure clothes, like what you're wearing, white, and they are beautifying themselves with all kinds of things. And their aim is now to be pure and to look pretty and like that. And all of a sudden, if someone comes and put a dead snake or a carcass of a dog or a human on them, how would they feel? You will be very disgusted. You will not bear it, because you see the dirt for the dirt. You get actually revolted from that scene or that even sight, because it's not going to match you. Maybe if you don't see it for what it is, then you might keep it. If you are also dirty and it's not much of a difference between that carcass and the smell of your garment and yourself, then you may not really consider of throwing it out. But like the dogs and there are some animals, they like these things. They like that smell, because they don't see it as an impure thing. They are also impure, they are also dirty, and they like the dirty things too. So, but if you are on the path to purify yourselves and you see something that's coming on your way as a dirt, naturally you will get moved to remove it. So, here as a second step, Buddha points out to contemplate on the consequences, contemplate on the dangers, contemplate it for what it is, and naturally it will subside, and you can then go back to your contemplation, whatever that you've been doing, whatever the meditation you are doing. And then in the third step, Buddha says, again, if this kind of unwholesome thought arises in you, and then this time Buddha says, don't pay any attention, don't think about it. There are some people in the society where when they come face to face, or you see them in the street, and sometimes you actually choose to look the opposite side, so they will not see you, they will not, you will not have any eye-to-eye contact, or even sometimes you will take a different route. Seeing someone that you don't like coming, you actually take a different route. That's because you know that this person is not a good person. You have tried to deal with them in many ways, and you have realized there's no way that I can deal with this person. It's always upsetting you, bringing you emotions or whatever. So you choose to ignore that person. So Buddha says, now this time, if it's coming for the third time, you must ignore. You have tried twice, actively putting a lot of energy and effort, and you tried. But still, if this thought comes again, then this time, ignore it. Don't pay attention. Just ignore, and then you go back to what you are doing, to your meditation. That's the third method. And the fourth one is for you all to look into the actual thought, what it is doing to you, how it's disturbing your mind, how try to figure out how was your mind beforehand, before this thought came, how calm it was, how tranquil it was, and now how is it? See that it has disturbed you, and then try to relax and calm down your thoughts, seeing that it's making you tired, it's making you disturbed, it has created some chaos in your mind. Seeing that, take an active step to relax and to calm that thought. They gives the example as if someone is running and they realize, actually, I'm very tired, and then they will start to walk, not to run, but maybe walk fast. And then while they are doing that also, if they realize it's still making them tired, they will walk slowly. And that hasn't helped them, then they will stand. And while standing, compared to what you were doing before, standing might be okay, but then you will realize that's also making you tired. You're feeling tired, then what you will do, you will even give up that posture and you will sit down. And while you're sitting down, if you feel tired, then you will choose to lie down and rest and relax. So that way, Buddha says, from a gross position that you have come to now, to a very soothing position where you can just rest. The same way, from these gross thoughts, calm it down and bring it to the mind that you are already experiencing, that calm and quiet mind. So calm these thoughts down, and then that way these unwholesome thoughts will subside. So the fourth method is to relax and calm those unwholesome thoughts. And the fifth method is what's in the sutta is actually, I also think that it's a misinterpretation of what Buddha has been saying. In the sutta, what it says is, okay, now this is bothering you so much. This time you clench your teeth and press your tongue against the palate and try to crush that thought. This is what it says in the English and the other translations. But actually Bhante Puniji has pointed out that actually that's not the case. That's not what it's talking about. What Buddha is saying here, it's rational to think in this way. What he's saying is actually, now relax your jaws, relax your tongue, and relax these muscles. Because when you are tensed, when you are having all these emotions going on and unwholesome thoughts, naturally what happens is our muscles get tensed. So it makes sense to relax them. When you relax, you feel comfortable and that thought will go away. Like yesterday I was talking to someone and she already knew, and I hope most of you already know, that when we have these unwholesome thoughts, they lead to the emotions. And when it has come to that emotional level, you have a lot of hormones that's secreted into the blood, and this blood gets secreted, blood travels throughout your body into all the cells. And one thing that happens to us is these muscles get tightened. So there's a lot of tension in your body when there's emotion. If you're sensitive enough, you can notice them around your shoulders, around your neck, around your thighs, around your muscles, around your heart. You feel they are pressing or they are so tight. And also you may notice these days, because there's so much keles or so much of defilements within us now, because no one is actually trying to make an effort to get rid of the defilements. You can see when people are walking nowadays, they are not actually walking, pretty much half running. And then you notice their faces. If you can stop by and watch, you will see unconsciously they are actually clenching their teeth, and you can see these muscles are moving a lot, like this. And because my eyes are used to it, I can see it very quickly. How many, if you get 100 people, around 70 people are biting their teeth and clenching their teeth, because it's all tense now, and they are doing it unconsciously. You can very nicely see it from this side of the face, and this muscle moves. So this is what happens to us when we have emotions. So I don't think there's any reason for Buddha to tell us to, press more or tighten more. It makes sense, like Bhante is saying. What Buddha is saying is you relax. And relaxing helps. We know that. These unwholesome thoughts and emotions make you to tense, and this tense body actually helps to have more vicious thoughts. And it's a vicious cycle. More you are tensed, more unwholesome thoughts you seem to get. And if you manage to relax your body, the mind also gets calm. And I hope you have experienced it in the morning. Just by not doing anything with your mind, all you've been doing is your exercises, you feel so relaxed. And what's the effect of a relaxed body is you have a calm mind. You haven't done any meditation. Just by relaxing your body, relaxing your muscles, you feel so comfortable and your mind seems to be so calm. And I hope you have noticed that you have so much of wholesome thoughts at that time. Very easily you can harbor. May all beings be well and happy without any difficulty. Have you all noticed it? So it works like that. It goes in a cycle. A relaxed body helps you to have a calm mind. A calm mind relaxes your body more and more and more. More relaxed your body, more comfortable you are. You experience more comfort. It helps you to relax your mind and to have more calmness in your mind. So it also goes in a cycle, and Buddha shows this in not one of his sutras, actually couple of the sutras, showing how we get into the samadhi. He says, passadda kayo sukham vedayati. That means a relaxed body helps you to, or brings you that comfort. And sukhino chittang samadhyati. When you are comfortable, when you are experiencing that comfort in your body, it helps you to attain samadhi, or the tranquility of mind. And so there's a clear connection here. So it makes sense to interpret it the way that Bhante had written here, because that is more or less like it goes along with the Buddha's other teachings, because there's no any other places actually Buddha had been pointing out to a tense mode. He's always talking about relaxing. And Buddha takes the example as if a strong man holds a weak person with ease, and that he can throw away that weak person with ease. The same way we can do this when you're relaxed and you make yourself comfortable. Very easily that thought can be thrown out. So it makes sense. But in the other interpretations, they actually show it in a different way. So these are the 5 techniques. And Buddha says, a disciple who achieves this is called the master of mind. And he thinks what he wants to think. I'm sure some of you are still struggling, to think what you want to think, because you get bombarded with all these other thoughts. But when you practice this, it helps you all to give the power, or to gain the power to think what you want to think and to leave the rest. And then you don't have to think what is unwanted. And this person has stopped the emotional urge, and they are heading towards Nibbana. So this is what Buddha is talking about in this sutta, Vittaka Santana Sutta. So when you are engaged in your meditation throughout the day, 24 hours, except the hours that you are sleeping, you practice your method, and any distracted thought comes, engage these 5 steps. But you must try from the first one. First step first, and if that same thought comes again, you go to the second step. If it's bothering you again, go to the third step, like that. You must do it in that sequential manner. Normally, if you do this properly, it doesn't really bother you much. It goes away and it won't come back. So, all I want to do is share this sutta, and please take some time to read that, and that will help you in controlling your thoughts or getting rid of this unwholesome thoughts. So is there any questions that you would like to ask from what I was talking about, or anything to do with your practice up to now? Did you all manage to read and practice up to what we were talking about, up to page number 39? Contemplating on the realities and doing the penetrative awareness. Have you all managed to read that? You all have, huh? Have any problem with that? You're okay with it? Yes?
Regarding this harmonious method of equilibrium, has it any in relation to this harmonious tension?
Can you come? I'm also getting old, so bit deaf.
Bhante, regarding this harmonious method equilibrium, is Samadhi. Is this anything in connection with this harmonious attention to the 4 foundations? Yeah.
So you want to know the connection?
Yes.
Okay. So in Noble Eightfold Path, the path starts with that harmonious perspective, the Samadhi, and then after you have Samadhi, what comes next? Samma Sankappa. And Bhante translates that as harmonious orientation, because before he used to live with the thoughts with sensual pleasure, sensual desires and passionate thoughts. You didn't do anything about it. You were just harboring them, nurturing them. They call the Kama Vittaka. And then when there was a thought about ill will or anger or hatred, you didn't pretty much do anything. You were going with them. They are called the Vyapada Vittaka. And then if there was any thoughts with cruelty, it's called the Hinsa Vittaka, you were actually just harboring them and nurturing them and acting according to whatever that was those thoughts were doing to you. But now that you have understood the Dhamma, you have realized if you are going to keep on harboring these thoughts and developing these thoughts, you are not going to find peace and happiness in your life. Peace and happiness is the quest. Yeah, this is what we have been looking for. We don't like to suffer. We all want to be comfortable, to be happy, to be peaceful. Now when you have the Samadhi, your right perspective, you understood that this is what I'm seeking, and if I want to get rid of suffering, if I want to be free from suffering, if I want to find real happiness, real peace, that doesn't lie outside. Like I was telling you, talking to you all before, it's not in the sense sphere where you can fulfill your desires and you can, stimulate your senses and bring pleasure, and that's not what's going to make you happy. So now that you are convinced with that. So what you do now, when these three types of thought come to you, kama vitakka, vyapada vitakka, hinsa vitakka, what you do, you consciously turn it around. Kama vitakka into nekkama vitakka, thoughts about renouncing. Vyapada vitakka into avyapada vitakka. Avyapada means non-hatred. So you're changing them. And hinsa vitakka into avihinsa vitakka. That means non-cruelty. So now these are the thoughts that you're going to harbor. Any thought that comes opposite to a thought of renouncing, thought of non-hatred, or the thoughts with metta, or any thought with non-cruelty, thoughts with kindness, these are the ones that you're going to develop. Anything else that comes, you're going to flip them around and turn it into these nekkama vitakka, avyapada vitakka, avihinsa vitakka. So you start to develop this. Now, why actually we had to even observe precepts? Let's go back one step. Why? Precepts is like, having a guard around you. You are consciously not displaying or not engaging, or you're refraining from radiating or transmitting your emotions to the world out there. Remember I was telling you that, when we break the precepts, what happens if we let our emotions just go out? It will hurt or harm or damage others. Especially this is why we have 5 precepts, to protect others and ourselves. So when you are taking the precepts, what you were doing is you were making a determination that no matter how angry I am, no matter how much desires I have, I will not kind of express them in a way that it will bring harm, hurt or damage to another person. But the thoughts that originated that kind of expression or emotion, or that was making you all to behave in that way, is still in your mind. Because everything starts in your mind, from your thoughts. Buddha points that out in the Dhammapada. The first stanza is about mano pubbangama dhamma manosetta manomaya manasache paduttena basatiwa karotiwa tatona dukamanvedi chakkuma vahatopada. What he's saying is, the thought is a forerunner. If you are having unwholesome, impure, negative thoughts, as a result of having them and pondering over and over and putting it into action and to words, what will follow you is suffering. And in the second stanza he mentions mind is a forerunner. So if you are harboring good thoughts, positive thoughts, pure thoughts, and if you keep on pondering them and you put that into practice through your body and through your speech, what follows is happiness as a shadow. And he used the example on the first one. What follows you is suffering if you have these negative thoughts. How? As wheels in an ox cart. It's very heavy. Ox don't like to have that cart, being tied to it and have to carry that whole heavy weight, but no choice. The same way he says, a person who is doing unwholesome things, unwholesome thoughts and doing unwholesome things will have to bear the consequences of facing those heavy weighty akusala karma, and it will be very heavy on you and very unpleasant to bear them. a lot of unhappiness and suffering will follow you. So the opposite happens if you bear or if you develop the positive thoughts. It will make you to be happy, to be comfortable, to be peaceful. It will lead you away from suffering and help you all to experience the happiness of the mind. So Buddha points out that's where everything starts, from a thought. So if we still have these defiled thoughts or the unwholesome thoughts, it will continue to make you want to engage in certain actions through your body and through your speech. So what you all have to do is then all the time have to control it, all the time have to control, because you haven't dealt with the root cause. You are still getting angry, and for example, if you have a problem with anger, you are still getting angry, and all you are trying to do is not to express the anger. But the root cause of the anger, the thoughts that giving rise to the anger, is still with your mind. You haven't done anything. So what happens when we come to this second step in Noble Eightfold Path? After you have had the understanding of the Dhamma, then you choose to actually fix your thoughts, because you have realized it's this thought that's putting me into trouble. All these unwholesome thoughts to do with the sensual pleasures, thoughts to do with hatred, thoughts to do with cruelty is the thing, the culprit, is the problem. So now you have started to all the time try to turn it around to the good side, to the positive side. So then what happens when you keep doing this? So it's almost a actually orientation towards the goal you want to go, because all this time you were actually going to a opposite direction. Even though you were seeking happiness and peace, you were walking in a different direction. But now you have realized if you want to get to that destination, actually you have to walk that way, not keep walking on that way. So you reorientate with fixing your thoughts first. Now then what happens? When you have fixed your thoughts, what happens to your behavior? Do you still have to struggle? No. Then what happens? Your words become samma vacha. Your action becomes samma kammanta. Your way of living becomes samma ajiva. Because now the problem is getting fixed here. So it can't have a bad output. You put rubbish in, rubbish comes out. If you're putting the pure things in, the pure things comes out. So your words now no longer the harsh words or lying or slandering or empty talk, all the things that comes under musavada, none of them is going to come now. Because you're purifying it here, there's no rubbish here. So there's no rubbish to come out through your speech or through your actions. Before you had to restrain yourself, not hurting, harming, killing, stealing, and misconducting all this and that. But now, none of them are going to be expressed because none of those thoughts are working here. It's being fixed here. So their action is going to be samma. They will only do or engage in things that will help others, that will bring happiness and peace to the others. They will not do anything that will hurt or harm someone through their body, through their speech. And also their living becomes samma. The way they live is not going to bring hurt or harm or any damage to anyone. If they have to support by a living, that living also be a righteous one. Not by stealing or doing this and that kind of things. No, they will prefer to die in hunger if they can't get something out from a good means. They would still prefer to die, rather than stealing someone something and feeding yourself or your family. Because sometimes, people are innocent when they are put in certain situations. They do wrong things actually to support their life, help themselves or their children. I had one of my devotees in Sri Lanka coming and telling me that their worker, Bas means carpenter, was building his sister's house, and they just moved in to the new house, but there was still work going on, and they had a wedding to attend I think in couple of days. So they had all their jewelry in that house. And when they were looking for it on the day that they were going to go to the wedding, none of them were there. So they started searching and doing this and that, and finally they found out it was the worker, the carpenter, one of the carpenters have taken it. So they took him to the police, and because I teach the Dhamma in a way that, not how the others would say, somehow whatever he was doing with that person in the police didn't really fit his mind. He gave me a ring to say, look, Mehenin Wahanse, this is what happening. How can these people cheat like this? I will break his neck and arms and everything, and because his friends were in the police station there, blah blah blah. And then I told him, you know why you're ringing me? When you have such a disturbed mind, you ring someone because you know something is not right. So I told him, did you ask him why he did that? What he was saying, looking at from their angle, that his sister couldn't go to the wedding and blah blah. I said, that's only one thing, not a major thing. But did you check with this poor fellow why he did it? And then I told him, not to be violent, just deal with it in a nice way, in a smooth way. First you let me know, first you go and find out why he did it, and you come back to me, and then we'll deal with it after that. So actually he didn't ring me back, but I heard from him later. The boss has told actually, his wife was so sick and she couldn't go to work, and they didn't have money to get medicine for his wife's illness, and at the same time the child couldn't pay for her school, for some exams, and to pay for the tuition and for the school. And he said whatever that he was earning wasn't enough because the wife couldn't support. She was on leave and couldn't work. So the school was putting pressure for the child to pay the fees, and the wife needed some medicine. So this is the reason why he went and took this. So actually he felt very bad, and he even have given money to him, and they recovered the jewelry because he didn't have time to sell them. They found it very quickly. So after that he came and told me, thank you very much. And this is the Dhamma. Sometimes when you look into people's life, they don't do it with a vicious mind, but they got no choice. Sometimes it's to support them, sometimes it's to feed their children, or to support someone who is being sick. And they engage in something very negative that will hurt the other people, but they don't see it that way because their need is a pressing need. So someone who is on this path, walking as an Arya on this Noble Eightfold Path, they will never do or engage in such an act even if they lack the basic needs. They would choose to die. They would rather, get something with the righteous means, or they will not engage in such negative behavior because they know with understanding now that's going to hurt or harm or bring a lot of unhappiness, suffering to another person, and they would avoid that. Because the person who is have taken a U-turn now, he was going that way, now they have taken a U-turn and they are heading towards that direction to find happiness, and they know the consequences of their own acts, consequences of harboring the negative thoughts. They know it very well because they understand it within. So Buddha says this type of sila, or we don't actually call precepts when it comes to Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva. But this sila is going to help you to get to the Samadhi. It's called Aparamattang Samadhi Sanguttanika. So this sila in here, Buddha explains, Aparamattang means it's coming from within. And this discipline that comes from within is going to help you all to go to Samadhi. So it's not like you forcefully restraining yourselves. It's not you're behaving in this particular way or adhering to this way of behavior because Buddha has said it, or the Sangha has told you, or your mother said, or teacher said. No. Now you're doing it with understanding that comes from within, and you understand why you're doing it. So this understanding and this sila helps you all to go to Samadhi. So the next step after Samma Ajiva is called the Samma Vayama, the harmonious exercise. So this exercise has 4 parts. Now, we can't be just happy with our sila or the behavior part. Why we were adjusting ourselves is to get to the destination, to be free from suffering, to find that ultimate happiness and peace, the Nibbana. So here we can't just rest after fixing our behavior. Now there is something we must do actively. That is Samma Vayama. If you want to build up your muscles, you would do some exercises, yeah? So now if you want to build up your mind, there is some exercises that you want to do. That is Samvara, Pahana, Bhavana, Anurakkana. Most of you know all those ones. The people who have been coming to a couple of the retreats and who have participated in the level 2, all of you know. But for the newcomers, I'll just go through quickly. Samvara, Prahana, Bhavana, Anurakkana means, again, you're dealing with your mind, with your thoughts, and this is the process where you start to actively clean. So Samvara means guarding your senses. Prahana means getting rid of any memory image or any thought that comes to your mind. If it's unwholesome, you're taking it out. And Bhavana means cultivating the good thoughts, particularly the Sapta Bojjhanga, or the factors of enlightenment. Anurakkana means you maintaining that. And if we go to the normal translations, it's been translated as not letting the unarisen, unwholesome thoughts to arise, getting rid of the arisen, unwholesome thoughts, arousing or bringing up the unarisen, wholesome thought, and then maintaining the arisen, wholesome thought. So you can see here, you're pretty much dealing with unwholesome and wholesome thoughts. Getting rid of the unwholesome thoughts and not letting them come in, and bringing up the wholesome thoughts and maintaining it. Remember last time I was telling you, when you have a arisen unwholesome thought, the minute you turn it into a wholesome thought, what you have is a wholesome thought, and as long as you're maintaining this wholesome thought, the unarisen, unwholesome thoughts will not arise. Yeah? So this is the technique. So you have to keep doing this. And when you manage to do the first 2 steps properly, Samvara and Prahana, not allowing the unarisen, unwholesome thoughts to arise, and getting rid of the arisen, unwholesome thought. What are you actually doing here? If you constantly, continuously, if you keep doing this, what is the state of the mind here now? Pure. The 5 hindrances are not there. If you keep doing this, what you've been doing is getting rid of the 5 hindrances. So now there is a purity in that mind. There is a tranquility in that mind. If you do the first 2 steps properly, you have to do the first 2 steps first before you can go to Bhavana and Anurakkana. Now your question comes. How does this 7th step, Samma Sati, relates to this? Okay. Now you have managed to purify the mind. You have a state of tranquility there. But then Bhavana comes in. Buddha's definition of bhavana is cultivating the 7 factors of enlightenment. You go to the Sabbasava Sutra, very clearly he defines the bhavana as meditation as cultivating of these 7 factors of enlightenment. So what's the first factor? In the 7 factors of enlightenment, what's the first one? Sati. Remember? It's sati. So now it's overlapping with what you're starting to do now is actually developing your samma sati. So this bhavana starts with samma sati. So what is samma sati? There's again another exercise that you have to do. Placing your attention on what? Kaya anupassana, Vedana anupassana, Chitta anupassana, Dhamma anupassana. So what is Kaya anupassana? Contemplation on your body. What is Vedana anupassana? Contemplation on your feelings. What is Chitta anupassana? Contemplation on your mood or the emotions, on the Chitta. What is Dhamma anupassana? Is contemplation, normally translated as contemplation on the mind. What is mind? Here the Dhamma is Mano Dhamma. Remember the thoughts. What's going on in your mind. So contemplating on your own thoughts. Why we do it in this way? Kaya anupassana, Vedana anupassana, Chitta anupassana, Dhamma anupassana. What's the relevance here? Why we start the Sapta Bojjhanga with Samma Sati? And why we practice Samma Sati as Kaya anupassana, Vedana anupassana, Chitta anupassana, Dhamma anupassana? And Buddha has said in Mahasatipatthana Sutta, Satipatthana Sutta, in many places this Satipatthana is the gateway to moksha or to nirvana, to the final. This is the gateway to the final destination. Why? Now remember, I told you everything starts from your thought, and it's a thought that leads to a emotion. Remember? And then that emotion has an effect on your body. It's not easy to trace your thought first. So what we do first is you become aware of your body first, because this is a chain reaction that happens in a split second. When you have a thought, the effect is immediate. You just have a thought about a very sour mango, have an image of a mango and a sour mango in your thought. What happens? Saliva is in your mouth in no time, right? It's that powerful thoughts are. And that one you can detect. And there are so many other things that's going on which you can't detect, which you can't see and feel, but there is an effect. So every thought that you harbor has an effect on you in your body. If it's not even developed into a state of emotion, but still has an effect. So what Buddha is teaching us here is to trace this chain reaction and trace it back to the place where it started. See where it started. But we can't do it straight away. First thing we can do is place our attention in the body and see what's going on in the body. Then what you will see is the tensions or the relaxation or that comfortable feeling. And whatever that's going on in the body, you will notice. And then you go back to Vedanapassana. Vedananupassana means you're contemplating on the feeling. Now, what are the feelings that we get? When we talk about Vedana, what are the Vedana? There's 3 categories of Vedana. Pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, and neutral feelings. So there's 3 kinds of feelings that you feel when your senses bring data from outside to here. Every time when you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or the sense of touch, all this works, there is a feeling attached to it. Vedana and Sanya goes together. I think Bhante Punyaji has talked to you all a lot, many times, about Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, these 5 cumulatives, he calls. And this is the process where your consciousness is built. How your consciousness is developed is shown by Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. And Sanya is what makes you to be, your senses to be stimulated. Now, for example, if you take the eye, it's the light. When the light falls in your eye, that's when the seeing will start happening. And with this light, there is a sensation that comes with that, a feeling. And you start to feel it, and it's a feeling that we actually react to. It's not to that stimuli that we react to. We react to the feeling that it brings. For instance, when we take this light, what is light is also again some frequency. And according to the frequency, we see colors. And that colors or that frequency has an effect on us. Now, when it's in the red range, it's very unpleasant. If someone shines a bright red light at your eyes, you don't think of closing your eye. It happens to you naturally. Naturally, you try to avoid it because it's unpleasant. Unpleasant things we don't like, we dislike, and we try to get rid of them. And more into this green range, when the frequency is into the green range, it's not unpleasant at all. It's actually pleasant. You have seen in the hospitals all the curtains are green, and your eyes are not tired when you're watching or going into a forest and just watching the trees, watching the sky. Your eyes don't feel tired, and you can keep on doing it for hours and hours and hours. But notice that you don't watch red color for long times. Notice these things because we don't like it. So there's this neutral range in this frequency where the white color is. See, you don't react to the white color. You don't mind it being there, or you don't, try to remove it. It's just there, and it gives you an idea that something is there. This neutral feeling, we don't react to it, but there is a deeper problem there. When you try to get enlightened, you will realize, because there's a lot of delusion taking place in that neutral feeling. Even though you are not reacting, you are harboring a thought that it's there, that's something that exists, that notion is there. So anyway, let's deal with that unpleasant, the neutral feeling later, but let's take this pleasant feeling and the unpleasant feeling. So when there's a pleasant feeling, without even you knowing, lightness has arisen in you. And then if you don't detect it there, it develops into desire. You want to have more of it. And with the unpleasant feelings, feeling, dislikeness arises without even you knowing. And then it will develop into hatred and wanting to get rid of it. These are the two reactions that we do heavily. The middle one is also there, but these two reactions will bring a lot of emotions. When you react to this pleasant feeling and to the unpleasant feeling, that brings out a lot of emotions. So, Buddha is saying now, try to pay attention to this feeling and try to identify what kind of a feeling that's there in that moment. And then you'll be able to see it's that feeling that you have reacted to. Later you start to realize that. And Buddha shows this in Paticca Samuppada. How does tanha arises? What's the step just before tanha? No. Passa paccaya Vedana. This is how Vedana started. And Vedana paccaya tanha. It was this Vedana, it was this feeling that gave rise to this tanha. This is the point where tanha gets, tanha comes to be. So there's three types of Vedana, yeah? Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and the middle one is a neutral feeling. They call Sukha Vedana, Adukkama Asukha Vedana, and then the Asubha Vedana or Dukkha Vedana. So, then there must be three types of tanha too. Even though we use the word tanha as one word, there is actually three types of tanha that arises in relation to these three feelings. For the pleasant feeling, we call kama tanha. And the one in the middle, the neutral feeling, we call bhava tanha. And the unpleasant feeling, it's called the vibhava tanha. So if tanha is like that, there is these three pointers. If the Vedana is like that, there is these three separate branches. So these three give rise to these three tanha. So it's the Vedana that gives rise to tanha. So if we can keep an eye on this and not react, well, tanha will not arise. So this is why Buddha says, avijja is the problem, that you are not being aware of this is the problem. So we must be aware of this. We must become conscious of what's going on, and then we can stop this reaction. Every second, if you stop it without going into this, making a reaction to this Vedana, whatever the sequence that's going to follow after tanha will not take place, because tanha hasn't taken place. So, in this Kaya Anupassana, Vedana Anupassana, Buddha is encouraging us to penetrate into this bit. So, when you keep doing this, you start to understand for yourself what's really going on here. And then after Vedana, after contemplating on Vedana, then you are to look into the Chitta. Chittanupassana means look into the emotion. What kind of emotion it's making. The mood. Whether it's disturbed with anger or ill will or jealousy, or whether it's so calm and contented and tranquil. Whatever that, the mood, check that. How is your Chitta? And then we go one step backward to check the thought that gave rise to all of this. It's called the Dhammanupassana. What is the thing that you see from your eyes? Eyes and rupa. Rupa means the images. And to the sound, to the ears, what do we kind of correspond with? The sound. Yeah, to the eye it's the images, to the ear it's a sound, to the nose what is it? What do you get through? Smells. And in the tongue it's a taste. And the bodily, to the body it's the touch or the sensations. What about to the mano part? What does the product or what is the matching part to the mano? It's the Dhamma, Mano Dhamma. Because that's what you respond with that, with the mano. Like to the eye, the rupa, because they are very specific. The eye is not designed to have sound. It only can work with the rupa, the visual side, images. So Mano Dhamma, remember in the first stanza also in the Dhammapada, Buddha talks about Mano Pubbhanga Ma Dhamma. What's going on in your Mano part is the forerunner. That's what's going to create this whole chain reaction. So mano dhamma. So here we are going to do the dhammanupassana, looking into your thought. The activity of the mano that produces the thoughts. So now you look at the thought. So you start to see it in this chain reaction. Oh, this thought actually gave rise to this. And where did we get caught up? How did we actually form the thoughts? Reacting to this Vedana. If it was pleasant, we liked it. If it was unpleasant, we didn't like it. If it was in the neutral range, we couldn't even detect. It was just there. We thought something is existing. So like this, you now start to see this chain reaction. And Buddha says, if someone practices this satipatthana, forget about practicing for 1 year, 3 months, come to 7 days, and if someone can practice properly this satipatthana for 7 days, he guarantees something. What is it? The person who practices satipatthana properly for 7 days continuously either will become a non-returner or become an arahat. Those are the two results. So you can see why it was called the gateway. Because this is where your understanding starts to take place, where you start to develop, or where you're going to have a shift in your thinking, seeing what's going on within you. This is where you start to see it for yourself. Yeah, this is why the sati is the first factor of enlightenment. Sapta bojjhanga means, bodhi anga means, bodhi means, buddhi means intelligence. So bodhi anga means awakening factors. Factors of awakening. Factors that help you to get enlightened. That's why they are called 7 factors of enlightenment. If the first step has started, it's non-reversible. It will only go that way. After the Saptabojjhanga has started. So now when you practice the Satipatthana, the Samma Sati, it starts from Samma Sati, you practice Satipatthana, you start to see what's going on in your mind. And what's the second step in 7 factors of enlightenment? It's called Dhamma Vichaya. Means seeing this process, part by part, you see it. You continuously start to see this chain reaction. And then you start to understand. You can analyze now what's going on. And then as a result of you practicing this, the next thing arises. What is it? The third factor of enlightenment. Virya. Virya means now your mano part catches up. Before, when there were so many emotions, the mano or your rational thinking ability didn't have much strength because it was the emotions who were in power. Remember, even last night Bhante was talking, saying if there's an emotion and if it's strong, there's no hold for the rational thinking. This is why you all had to keep precepts forcefully, No matter how strong is the emotion, at least still you try to engage your rational thinking and stop that emotion. But very difficult. This is why people break precepts all the time, because the emotions are strong. So, in the mind, there's always this tension between your rational thinking part and the emotions, between your mano and your chitta. They're going in 2 different directions. All the time, there's so much tension because these emotions, they are not in line with the reality. All they want is what they want, permanent things and nice things and good things and all that. But because it's a reaction to that Vedana. Simply this tanha, this emotion started from the reaction to that Vedana when your perception is starting. So what it is saying is, if it's a pleasant feeling, it wants it more and more and more and more to continue that. And there's no way that you can do it. But the emotion is interested in continuing it. And if something comes as opposite to a comfortable feeling or it becomes an unpleasant feeling, it's not interested in harboring it. You want to get rid of it. So there's this reaction that happens to you without even your knowledge. You don't know what's going on. So emotions are very strong because it's starting from there. When the perception is taking place, you're reacting to that Vedana right in there. You didn't think of doing this, it just happened to you. So what Buddha is saying now, conscious of that, and that gives you the power to not to react. So now, when your emotions are actually, kind of subdued and it's kind of lost its power, because no longer you being unconscious, you're conscious all the time and seeing this process going on. Every minute that you are conscious of this process, you see it, you don't react. Because you understand reaction is the problem here. Tanha is the problem. So now you are consciously making a decision not to react. And you don't react. So now there's no power for the tanha. No power for the emotions. So the willpower, or what we call the rational thinking, gains power. What we call the willpower. So now when the rational thinking part, or your intelligence, what you call that's associated with your brain, that picks up the strength, that becomes strong, and this is what we call the virya. So it develops naturally. When you are doing the right thing, the samma sati, the sati, and the dhamma vijaya, you do it properly, virya comes up. The mano part picks up the strength. Now it's very strong. And as a result of you having a strong mind, the next thing is mind starts to feel so happy. The next factor of the Sapta Bojjhanga, or the 7 factors of enlightenment, is called Piti. Your mind becomes so happy, like the moon has been kind of being freed from all the clouds, dark clouds. The moon comes out, you can see it's so radiant and nice, yeah? So like that, now your mind has been freed from all these dark clouds and emotions, and no longer it's being suppressed. It's so happy, so Preeti comes. And then the Passaddhi. What is Passaddhi? Comfort feeling in your body. When this is happening to you, from the when you are practicing your Samma Vayama, or the harmonious exercise, you manage to actually get rid of your 5 hindrances, your dirt. Now you're only developing it in this pure side, so no longer there is this unwholesome hormones working in your body. So your blood is not affected with any hormones that's going to tighten your muscles. So while you're doing this, actually what's being happening is your muscles have been relaxing. And your blood gets purified. This is why when you come to a retreat, after 7 days, 10 days, you look at your face from a mirror, or you go home, they will say, wow, you look so better, you are radiant, you're so pleasant. And you see it with your fellow yogis, that they look much better than they come. Why? Their blood has been purified. There's no more hormones are working. So the blood actually has the full capacity to carry out the oxygen as it designed. And oxygenated blood is very bright. There's a sparkling effect in the oxygenated blood. If you have been working in a lab, or you are a doctor or someone, you will know. When you see the oxygenated blood, it's sparkling. When you see the blood that comes with a lot of carbon dioxide and impurities that's in the veins, it's dark. You can see your veins here, normally it looks dark. So when your blood starts to get purified, your cells start to get a lot of oxygen, and you're holding a lot of oxygenated blood, and you can see it through your skin. And your muscles start to relax. More relaxed, the more oxygen can go to more cells. Before, they all were blocking up. But now, Passaddhi means, so your body is actually relaxing. And it's in such a comfortable state, when you are in this kind of a state, if you ask people how they experience, they kind of say they feel like they are floating, or their body is like a feather. It's amazing, all the weight that we have been feeling is actually the mental baggage. It's the mental impurities. When you remove these mental impurities, no longer even you feel a weight in your body. That's an amazing thing. It's like you're walking in the moon. That's something amazing. So you all have to practice to feel this, to know this. So then after Passati, what's the other factor? What's the sixth factor in the 7 factors of enlightenment? Samadhi. So now this Samadhi is actually overlapping with Samma Samadhi. It's that Samma Samadhi. Remember, the 8th factor in your Noble Eightfold Path is Samma Samadhi. So now the 6th factor, when it's developing from this, Sati, Dhammavicaya, Virya, Priti, Passati, Samadhi, it's now overlapping with Samma Samadhi on the 8th factor on the Noble Eightfold Path. And that's the last item on your Noble Eightfold Path, Samma Samadhi. Yeah? So now you have reached the Samma Samadhi. Here, Buddha defines Samma Samadhi as first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. And how you know you are in a jhana is from the characteristics. What are the characteristics in the first jhana? You still can think. Vitakka vichara is there. Ability to think and inquire and inference is there. And piti sukha is there. Priti passaddi, you just passed. So that's there in the first jhana. And what else is in there? Ekagata. Ekagata means there's no tension in your mind. It's no chitta. Chitta, or these emotions are not pulling you in other direction. It's only your wisdom working in its full force, going in one direction. There's no tension. It's so peaceful. So the peace is there. So those are the 5 characteristics of the first jhana. So after Samma Samadhi, there is another factor of the 7th factor of enlightenment. Another factor left. What is it? Upekha. What's the other word for upekha? 4th jhana. So the Saptabojjhanga, or the 7 factors of enlightenment, develops up to the 4th jhana. And 4th jhana is called upekha. Upekha means, upaikati means this, and in that jhana, 4th jhana, there is no vitakka vichara, priti or sukha. There's only that equanimous state, that peaceful state. There's no disturbance at all. So, because at that stage, even the priti, that happiness, or even that feeling of comfort becomes a disturbance. Compared to this peacefulness, even these ones are taken as a disturbance, activity of the chitta. So, that also being subdued, what you are left with is now just the peace. And in that state, you start to see the inside. What's in the inside now? What's there for you all to look into? What's there for you all to see? Upaikati means seeing inside. What's in there? Over there you did Dhammavicaya, or Dhammanupassana. But you only saw the thought. But there must be a way that thought was formed, isn't it? But you didn't see it there. What you start to see in this 7th factor of enlightenment, when you reach there, you start to see inside what you see, how your thought is formed itself. How that vijnana is formed itself. How? By rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana. So you start to see this process. you start to see Panchakanda for yourself. You start to see it and understand what it is. And it's your own knowledge and understanding now. It's not a theoretical knowledge. But you can't see how this Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara works, Vijnana works, if your mind is busy. Your mind has to kind of come to a complete stop, to that such peaceful state where there's only these activities left and you start to see it. And this is when you start to understand anatta. What we call anicca, dukkha, anatta, you start to see it here. Because this Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana is not something static. Yeah? It's a very speedy process. Arising of this Vijnana is a very speedy process. And moment to moment it arises and it falls away. It arises and it falls away. To the extent we don't even see that gaps. Because it's such a speedy process. See, when there is speed, there is a couple of illusions that take place. See this fan, you have 3 blades, 3 separate blades, and you can see the gaps in between, right? Now can you switch it on for me, please? But see what the speed is going to do to you. Now, do you see any gaps? Do you see 3 separate blades? What do you see? A circle, isn't it? A round thing, a circle. But is that the reality? Not really. It's the speed that created that illusion. But we know 100% that it's only 3 blades that's working in there. But see, you can't even see the gaps. Nothing. It's just a continuous circle. And there's another nice example. In Sri Lanka, when they have these processions, you may have seen on the TV or in magazines and all that they actually circle these fireballs. People are trained that they have this fire stick in their hand and they circle it in such a way you don't see a fire stick at a place at one time in one place. All you see is a lot of fire circles. All he is doing is actually circling it with such speed, but what you see is a lot of fire circles everywhere. It's a very nice scene, scene to be seen. But in reality, that fire stick is in one particular place at one time, one time in one point. But what you're seeing is not that, a full fire circle. And it's like magic. So, Buddha actually calls this Vijnana, our perception, is a magician. Because it creates something that's not there. And when you're seeing things, when you see this magic through your 5 senses, we call them illusions. Especially through your eyes, you call them illusions. But when this magic or when the things are not there and it appear to be in your mind, they are called delusions. So Vijnana is creating a delusion. So how this Vijnana gets created is by Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, and then you start to see. If it's happening with the eye, you start to see. The seeing takes place. But there is constant gaps all the time. But you don't see it, it's just such a speedy process. Like in a cartoon, there's separate sets. But they run in such a speed. You don't see separate sets, you see a movie. The same thing is happening with our mind when it comes to this process of Vijnana. So it's here that you actually get to see this. It's like now you have stopped it, you can see it clearly now. Anyone who looks at that fan, it's obvious. That's what's there for you to see. Now you have stopped all the activities in your mind. It's so quiet, it's so peaceful. what's there to be seen is the activity of that, whatever that awareness is left there, yeah? You're still aware. The consciousness is still there. Your vijnana is still there. So what you see is the process of vijnana, how it's taking place. Panchakanda. And when you see this, you start to understand about this arising and falling, and you start to see there's nothing to hang on to. Minute you don't see this actual process, you're bound to suffer. The dukkha comes. Yeah? So what's there is actually only an activity. But we thought, because these five senses are placed in our body. So now, are you convinced that it's the work of the five senses? How the five senses are, the working of five senses is actually working of this Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, because Bhante had told you many times, right? That's the building process, or how the Vijnana gets processed. That's the process. And so this is how your senses work, how the Vijnana is come to be. So, but where is your five senses? In your body. So you didn't see this process because your senses are in your body, and you thought, and we come to this misunderstanding of the working of our body as thinking I'm doing it, or there is me, there is someone here. What we have actually personalized is actually this process, because this process keeps you alive. Let you know about the world. The data comes through this process. So at the end, you have personalized your body because the five senses are in your body. But at the end, when you look at, you will see what you have personalized is actually this process. So this is why Buddha says, Pancha Upadana Kanda Dukkha. This five cumulatives, the minute you upadana it, the minute you personalize it, that's when the dukkha starts. Not just that activity. When you mistakenly personalize that activity, that's when the dukkha arises. And it clearly says it in Paticca Samuppada, Pancha Upadana Kanda Dukkha, Samchittena Pancha Upadana Kanda Dukkha, he shows. In the first sermon, Buddha talks about the dukkha, all types of dukkha, and at the end he says, in summary, these five cumulatives, when it's being upadana, when it's being personalized, that's the dukkha. So if someone wants to penetrate into dukkha, what is dukkha? You have to see this. So you started Four Noble Truths with dukkha first, yeah? And now you end up actually realizing what it is actually. So when you have the realizations, that's when you start to realize the anatta means there's no person doing it, there's no soul, there's no self here. What's there is this activity. And then it leads to vimukti, or to release from all kinds of suffering. Cheto vimukti, pajna vimukti, and you get full enlightenment. So this process is starting with your understanding. That's why it's not reversible. Someone who has started this process, Buddha says, guarantees that you will end up as either a non-returner or an arahat. So that's the relationship with Sammasati to the Samadhi. But I have to take you from there to tell you. If we had a whiteboard, I could have drawn you and shown you. What I will do, I'll draw it leisurely and you all can see it. No, I won't take time now. You all can meditate and I'll just write and leave it there, and then you can see the things in, because now Four Noble Truths are in one place. People think Noble Eightfold Path is another thing. 7 factors of enlightenment is in somewhere else. No, they all are connected. everything is in Four Noble Truths. It's all contained there. So I'll draw it so you all can later have a look at these relationships. It will give you a clear idea. Thank you for bringing up that question, because I think many of you may have benefited, because it gave you a view or the roadmap to where you are trying to get to. Yeah? So, okay, we have taken actually a lot of time. So I will stop here, and if you have any questions you can ask actually. You might have questions. Or you can write it down and keep it, and I'll answer you tonight.